Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Reservations. And I'm Jeremy Blair.
And I'm Rain Whalen.
And that was take two.
Now they
know it took.
I don't think. Well, I don't think they ever would have figured that out.
It's fine. I like to be open and honest with our audience. I feel like that's why they come back every week.
And why they leave comments on the Facebook page when we ask them to.
They don't. I have a sneaking suspicion that people may listen, like the general public, right? The general public who actually listens to this, which is about, 10 people, may listen to only about maybe 5 minutes. And then they're like, oh, I remember why I don't want to listen to this all the time. And then they turn and they don't even get to me going, hey, you guys should comment this, or hey, what do you guys think? Or
This is what Spotify for the audio. This is what Spotify estimates our audience size is. 15 listeners.
15?
15.
Okay.
But it then says we have 27 followers. So
not
means...
everyone's following through with the list.
Exactly. So we have followers that aren't listening. So there's at least 12 followers that aren't actually listening.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I mean, it also says we have 11 plays per episode.
It's not bad.
It's not bad. But I don't think they're listening all the way through, because I know, like, on the YouTube analytics, it says like the watch time is usually about like 30 minutes.
Maybe we should make these way shorter.
Nah.
We're
not the ones with the problem.
You're right. It's not me. It's the children who are wrong. That's from The Simpsons. So.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Well, that's fine. I was thinking the other day, maybe we should also start putting clips on TikTok or something. I know a lot of podcasts do that, and they get traction that way. I
was telling Ashley that that's the one platform we're not on.
We should do it.
Yeah.
What's stopping us? Nothing. It's free, I think. So
yeah, it's free. Okay. And on Riverside, I think they give me an option where I can export a clip in for the format of TikTok.
Fuck. So. Why are we doing that? We've been doing this for 4 years.
Well, I mean, shit. We've only been on YouTube for like a year.
I think it's been longer than that, but that's fine.
Well, I mean, we didn't start on YouTube until season 5. And the first episode we premiered was December 2nd of 2020.
Okay. So see? Did we do 5 seasons in a year and a half?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, April 2019 is when we started.
Okay.
And by December 2nd of 2020, we were already on season 5.
This is a great reminder for everyone who watches this solely for what was it? How many? No, that was on Spotify, 15. For whomever,
we have 52 subscribers on YouTube.
Boom. For the 52 of you, probably the 10 of you that actually watch on YouTube, we do have a backlog of stuff that's not on here. So that's a good reminder. I
need to update the website. I haven't updated the website since season 6.
Since Schumacher died? Was it the last time you?
No. It was. I think it was season 6 was the last time I updated it.
Okay. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think is there a way you could put up this would take a while, but put up, and of course we're talking shop in the beginning of this thing, and we probably should have this figured out before this, but maybe you could
are you saying export all the previous episodes and then just put
onto
them on
YouTube and just put the picture up?
Yeah. I mean, sometime, whenever before you moved, if my phone messed up and I lost the footage, that's usually what I would do. Either the picture of the movie we're talking about, or that's usually what I would do. Just the poster of the movie we're talking about.
I mean, maybe the logo on the left and the poster on the right. Maybe,
Maybe. Yeah.
maybe
Who
these are
knows?
just options.
Yeah.
Um, how boring was that conversation
That's
to
fine.
listen
I
to?
mean,
No fucking wonder
what
no one
if
listens to this.
well, I mean, well, and thankfully, since we're on YouTube now, I put timestamps. So
Yeah, you do.
people
Yeah,
so I put like intro and then when the episode actually starts. So maybe some people are
dude,
just jumping to that.
saves a lot of people time. I bet you.
I pro- but see, I think our banter sets up the episode really well. So,
Maybe.
well, with that being said, Jeremy, so what are we
Yeah.
talking about today, buddy?
Today, we are discussing Fritz Lang's first American film, Fury, 1936.
I thought we determined that he did one other English speaking
He
film
did
before this.
one other movie in between the two, but I
Ah.
don't believe it was an American film. I believe this one is his first American.
Ah, okay, okay. Yes, and also I wanted to clarify with you because I told Ashley, it's like, oh shit, we're gonna have to clarify with people.
Oh, it's
Even though I'm
not
pretty
the
sure,
other one.
yeah, not the one from 2016.
Yeah, it's not. It's not Pitt. It's not Pena. It's not LaBouffe. This is a different movie.
Yeah, it's not Bernthal.
Yeah, sorry guys.
If you clicked on this thinking that we're talking about that Fury,
And they're like,
sorry.
huh? They got the poster wrong. We didn't. It's the
Why is it just a man and a woman?
Yeah.
Where's Pitt leaning on the tank?
Yeah. I want to see him lean on the barrel of the tank. Yeah. Cool poster.
Jesus.
I haven't seen the movie, but I assume it's
Neither
good.
have I. I've heard it's good. I mean, David Ayer, after he did Suicide Squad and
Just talk
really
about this one. Let's
really shit
speculate
the
on
bed
this
about.
one instead of talking about the movie we came in.
Yeah, that's the movie that Shia LaBeouf ripped out one of his own teeth on.
Jesus, man. That guy. You know?
Yeah. So Jeremy, so you said last week you hadn't seen this movie.
No.
And this was a first for the both of us.
Yeah.
So since this is your pick, what what did you think after finishing the movie?
I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Mhm.
I love Spencer Tracy, of course. He's amazing in everything he does. He's young in this one, from his stuff that he is well known for, he's a lot older. So it was cool to see him as a young guy in this one. And of course, Sylvia Sidney, she's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
In this,
Yeah.
I wasn't really expecting anything, right? I knew that I read the plot once, and it was like a week before I had started to watch it, and so I didn't remember, and I was like, I'm not going to look it up. I'm just going to watch it. Let's see what happens, because I didn't remember what it was about. And it's mistaken identity, it's mob justice, it's revenge, and it's coming to terms, with your mistakes and atoning for them, right? It was really cool. It was really well done, and I again, Fritz Lang, he's awesome. It didn't, and we'll get into it a little bit. There wasn't a lot of cool Fritz Lang stuff in this.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna blame MGM, and then we'll just go from there.
But yeah, as we talked about in Mank, dude, fuck Mayor, dude, fuck that guy.
Yeah. Well, and also, he must have been really nice to Sylvia Sidney, because she was in his next movie after this. But he just stayed true to his reputation, and he was so terrible to all of his actors, especially Spencer Tracy.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's funny.
Yeah. He said there was one, we'll get into it, but, well, I guess this is it. That there were moments or takes where he ate like 3 bags of peanuts because Fritz Lang just kept going take after take after take. I thought he was faking eating those peanuts, to be honest. And I was like, oh, that's kind of fun. You have something in your pocket, you say it's peanuts, and you just pretend to eat them. Like, that's easy. And apparently, no, he was really eating those peanuts. And so,
well, I mean, even actors now say eating on camera is the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, they say it's like it's torture to eat on camera, because that's why, like, there's that trope of movie eating where you're just grazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Rain, I kind of already did, but you hit us with more specifics. What's this movie about?
Yes. All right. So yeah, you hit us with the majority of it, but a man named Joe is wrongfully accused of a crime which he did not commit, and in a stroke of mob justice, which we'll get into because I really want to talk about how we really see the rumor spread. But anyway,
Mm.
a rumor spread that he is the culprit in this crime. And instead of letting due process run its course, the people of this town take matters in their own hands. They form a mob and they lynch him by burning down the county jail that he is a prisoner in. And lo and behold, Joe survives and wants revenge. Now, before I continue, when I first read that, I was like, oh, okay. So, and as we were talking about last week, this is sort of the pivot into film noir. So I thought maybe, mob justice meets mob justice. He was going to, assassinate everyone. But no, he wants to get revenge by actually putting them on trial and proving beyond a shadow of a doubt. Sorry, everyone, if you can hear that. That's my watch going off. Let me mute that. And I just signaled my phone. I'm so sorry. Anyway, but prove that they did quote unquote murder him. And that's Fury. Because I don't want to give away the ending just yet.
Sure. I mean, why not? But go ahead. It's fine. Hopefully people have watched it.
Yeah.
I forgot to tell people where to watch it last time, so hopefully you found it.
Yes, but before we get into it, like we've been trying to do, if you do want to see this movie, I know you can rent it on iTunes. I physically bought it. I think it was like $10 on Amazon when I bought it. It's not on. I'm just gonna start saying Max because we only have 2 more days relative to this recording.
Mm-hmm.
By the time this episode comes out, it will officially be called Max. But
fingers crossed, I don't lose my subscription.
Same. But anyway, so Jeremy, where would you like to begin with this movie?
Well, let's start with so I like the setup of this movie, right? So we're setting up that, this young couple, which again, there's something about the human brain, or maybe just my brain, that if I see someone that I only know them as being older, no matter how young they are, that's how I perceive them, right? So it's weird saying that they're a young couple because I know Sylvia Sidney, like we were talking about, from Mars Attacks and from Beetlejuice. Like she's old, right?
Yeah.
And actually, you know how old she is. She's so old now. She's dead. But so is Spencer Tracy, by the way. Anyway, so when I see them and they're so young in this, I still picture them as being old. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So Sylvia Sidney's character's name is Catherine. So you have Joe and Catherine. Catherine is going out of town for a while. I don't remember why. It's been a while since I've seen it.
A job.
Thank you. She's going out for a job, and Spencer Tracy Joe is walking her to the train and seeing her off. And they are engaged.
They're engaged.
Or they're newlyweds. They're engaged. Okay.
They're engaged.
Because they're also window shopping like bedroom sets, and it's MGM in the 30s, so they are twin beds. And
no sex happening there.
Nope. And so whatever, he sees her off. He buys her the equivalent of a $79 bottle of perfume as she gets on to the train. I did the math, and no, I didn't do the math. IMDb did the math for me. Um, and sorry. Um, I was trying to remember how I found that number. But anyway, so Caesar off and off he goes. So he is traveling through. I'm trying to remember. Sorry, it's been a couple of days. I apologize, everyone. He's traveling through the countryside, and I don't remember why he's doing that because he has the job at the garage, right?
He's
So
going to see her.
he was going to visit her. That's what it was.
Yes, because
Okay.
it's been so. Hang on,
because
everyone. So
because then she was gonna come back anyway, but I think that was a surprise.
well, no. So okay, so
Sorry.
I'm gonna let everyone know. I relative to our recording, I finished this movie an hour ago. So okay, she's been gone for over a year,
Okay.
or at least a year.
Mhm.
He told her he was going to come visit.
Mhm.
Because she was going to be coming back, but I guess during this little period, he wanted to go see her. He
Mhm.
was ready to go see her.
Mhm.
And she was going to meet him at, I guess, the local um uh restaurant that she's been going to.
Yeah,
So she's
diner or
been,
something.
yeah, that she's been frequenting. And
Yeah.
yeah, and he's
Sorry.
and I'm trying to see specifically where, but he's going through rural
Mhm.
areas to get to her. And when he crosses through essentially what's equivalent of, I guess, a small town, um, where the small town has been plagued with a crime of three men kidnapping a woman.
Mhm.
And they think he has something to do with it
Yeah,
because he's a stranger and everyone's already on edge.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, cool. Yeah, okay. Sorry.
Cool.
Yeah. Um okay. So again, I like the setup of those two because those two become very important later on, especially when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to like she's the reason she's obviously the reason he atones for his revenge, but also he's our template, right? Or she's our
Mm-hmm.
template of the man he used to be, right? So when
Right.
she becomes involved later on, um, it's a stark difference between how he started and how he ended up, right?
Mm-hmm.
What happened, how it consumed him, right?
Well,
Um,
and especially we see that too with his brothers,
mhm.
because he berates his brother Charlie for going out, having drinks,
Yeah,
uh, associating with, it seems like, known gangsters.
yeah,
And he's like, no, live your life right, do good, and good things will happen.
yeah. So
That's all I wanted to
okay.
add. I wasn't going to keep going.
Yeah. So again, I like the setup of the two of them, because obviously that becomes very important.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. I'll let you do the whole like why it was so cool, and how it spread, but the rumor spread. So once he was arrested or at least taken in for questioning, right?
Yeah.
Nothing was official at that time because
Mm-hmm.
again, it's all circumstantial. Yes, it looks weird. He's a stranger. What is he doing here? Right? Um, it's weird that he was just like camping out or whatever. Um,
Well, and and the linchpin for them was, that I guess there was evidence of salted peanuts on the ransom note.
uh huh.
And
And of
so
course,
the
we
sheriff's like,
established that he is constantly eating peanuts.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so the sheriff hits him with the old, like, oh, do you smoke? Oh, no, I never smoke. Peanuts? And he's like, oh, now, now you're talking my language, So which
Yeah.
them like, oh, well, then he's obviously the man.
Yeah. Obviously. And so this information gets disseminated out throughout the town, right?
Mm-hmm.
In different in more and more untrue ways does the information get passed around, which is how all rumors are, right?
Mm-hmm.
This one just so happens to affect a man's life in a very negative way.
Yeah.
So
Very negative.
so what ends up happening is mob justice, right?
Yeah.
The entire town confronts the jailer and the police, saying that that's the guy. It's obvious, man. We've all heard who's in there, right? So
Hmm.
let's get this over with. He's obviously got something to do with it. Let's take care of him, right? And of
Yeah.
course, no, right? The poor jailer, man. He's just like, no, that's not how it works. That's not how due process works. We're going to keep this man in our custody until we can determine blah blah blah.
Yeah. And
And I recommend, by the way, there's a great episode of the show The Nick. The Nick being spelled Ki, or Kn Ick. It's with Clive Owen. It's created by Steven Soderbergh. Takes place
noise.
in. Oh, it's amazing. I don't know if you've heard of it. It was incredible.
I think he's a surgeon in like the
He's a
30s.
surgeon. Yeah. There is an episode in the first season called "Get the Rope," and it's one of my favorites. Uh, More because of the direction and because of the cinematography, and it's very tense. The whole episode is because
Hmm.
they have hired a black surgeon in their hospital, and it's under Thackeray's team. Thackeray is Clive Owen, and what is his name? Oh man, hold on, stand by. Anyway, the whole point I'm trying to make is that entire movie is what happens when mobs start getting out of control, right?
Hmm.
Something happens in the neighborhood, and um, this whole takes place in 1919, by the way. So I mean, like,
Oh, okay.
tensions are high. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
Something happens in the neighborhood, crime wise, that involves an African American, um, or that they assume involved an African American, and the entire neighborhood goes ballistic and starts, terrorizing anyone who is African American, and
Hmm.
and of course they're trying to save their surgeon, right? Which is a big turning point in the show, and with Thackeray's character, it doesn't matter. But anyway, it's amazing. It reminded me a lot of that when I was watching this movie. Um, Watch The Nick. Everyone should watch The Nick.
Yeah.
It's very good. It was on Stars. I think it might be on HBO Max
Oh, yeah.
at the time of this
Yeah.
recording. But anyway, so the mob sort of goes ballistic in this film, of course, and takes over, and they do end up burning the place down. The story this is based on, um, uh, that didn't happen. They lynched the two men that were being accused of the kidnapping in the original story.
Mm.
Um, that happened, I think, 2 or 3 years before this movie came out.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
I know. So again, and they even mention at the end of the film that the woman is like, you know it was the wife of one of the men being tried. It was like it's the mob. The mob doesn't think, right? The mob doesn't have any sort of moral compass. The mob doesn't, right?
That was Catherine.
Catherine, sorry.
That was when she was pleading to Joe
Right.
uh,
You're exactly right.
to let this go.
Man, I am just all
And
over the place. So sorry,
you're
guys.
fine. Well, aren't you glad then I watched it today?
I am glad you watched it an hour ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's
And of course, we've seen what mob justice does in real life. If you watch any sort of
Mhm.
retrospective on the 90s or anything like that, you remember the Rodney King riots, right?
Mhm.
Um, that's mob retaliation, right? It's not one individual person. It's one general idea that gets fed with more anger and animosity as another person joins, right?
Yeah.
To where it
You
becomes
know,
uncontrollable.
it reminds me a lot of, and if hopefully people can see it, and of course I'll say it, but this movie right here, Do the Right
Yes,
Thing. Um,
perfect example.
yeah, that because that's all I could think of is last 10 minutes of the movie, and Mookie, to essentially save Sal's life, directs the mob's attention just to the building.
Have we
Um,
have we done that movie yet?
we have not. We've touched on it. We touched on it in our '80s month.
Okay.
Um, I mean, this is already sort of a tease for next season, but next season is going to be a return to form,
Yeah.
and we're just going to do random movies. So maybe next season.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, that, and maybe it's me, or maybe it's a human nature thing. But every time I see mob justice in any capacity, I mean, film or TV.
Mhm.
When it's real life, that's a completely different thing. Which we don't have time to get into that. But in film and TV, it always makes me really angry, especially when it's really well written, which this was, because the mob thinks that they're doing something, that they're in the right for doing this. As we've established, this mob is so convinced that Joe either knows or has had something to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, everyone. And they think they're in the right. They
Yeah.
think they have every right to storm the jail and assault the sheriff and his deputies, and and it made me angry, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, no, because it's frustrating, right? Because
Yeah.
you know that he's not the culprit, right? I think that, with this town, and I kind of wish they had touched on it a little bit more. I kind of wish he had done what he had done in M, which was set a baseline of the temperature of the city itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are the people doing? What's their day to day? Are they changing habits because of the kidnappings and the murder? Are they on edge? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Has this happened more than once? Right? And so,
Yeah.
because all of that would explain
Why
their behavior,
everyone.
right? Because if
Yeah.
they're on guard all the time, they finally have some hope of an answer, some hope of an end to all of it, right? That would make complete sense to me, because that's what M does so well, is like at the end, where the entire town is the judge, jury, and executioner. You're like, fuck yeah, man, let's go.
Yeah. Which also, sidebar, shout out to Zach for actually answering you on that.
Yeah.
Zach does think he should, or maybe I'm misremembering. I think Zach said he should go on trial. But yeah, but see, I'm also kind of glad that Fritz didn't do that.
Okay.
Because at the same time, in kind of like what we were talking about off mic, we don't need another M,
That's true.
So
we don't need another
M.
That's a good point.
So a part of me is glad that we didn't get a lot of info.
Sure.
The only people that we do know that are on edge are the police.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the only people that we know for a fact are on edge, because, why else would the deputy, as soon as he sees this guy he's never seen before, immediately pull out a gun and it's like, I'm not answering any questions.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also it fits with the story we're telling at this time, because if we had any sort of empathy with the town, with the mob itself, I think we would be less on Joe's side, right? Which we're always going to be on Joe's side, kind of until the end.
Yeah.
We're always kind of on Joe's side because we know he's innocent, right?
Right.
Full stop. He didn't do it, right? But if we got more information about the town and how they are, right, and what's going on with them all the time and why they're so desperate, that maybe we'd be like, well, I kind of get it, and where that would be a more modern, well-rounded story, which we would get nowadays. Um, it's sort of like I'm going to give you an example that you're going to love. Okay,
Okay.
it's it's an example of, hold on,
I was about to say, is someone revving their engine?
happens all day. Um, so it's one of those where both sides are right. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's not exactly like this, but I think if we were to have gotten both, it would have been more like Michael B. Jordan's character in Black Panther, where I know,
Yeah.
shut up.
Yeah.
So that's a good mainstream example, right?
Yeah.
Of both people are right, you know,
Mm-hmm.
where Joe is a victim um, of being wrongly accused, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then the mob being like, we just want it over, right?
Yeah.
No matter what. And if they are 100% sure that that's the guy, I mean, then
Yeah.
there was no other choice, right?
Yeah. 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 It's sort of like, to stop this, we're going to take it because, we get whispers during the rumor part where a lot of them think that the sheriff is very incompetent.
Mm-hmm.
We get a lot of, well, I didn't vote for him, or wasting my vote, or, something like that.
Yeah.
And so, that I will say I'm glad that Fritz gave us a little bit more inkling onto why the mob formed
Yeah,
so quickly
definitely.
in the first place. Which is the town already just doesn't like the sheriff to begin with,
Right. Right.
and they think he should be doing more. Um, and so yeah, and I agree. Both sides are right. Now, obviously, Joe more right than the mob because Joe didn't do it,
Right.
but we do see that the mob feels like they are entitled because they don't believe in the sheriff. He's not getting it done. We'll get it done.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
By the way, speaking of, we were talking about the trial earlier, and sort of how all that is put together. I had mentioned earlier that Fritz Lang didn't really get to do Fritz Lang stuff in this movie because it's not that kind of movie, right?
Yeah.
He's not doing like cool like fade transitions. He's not doing transformations with editing. He's not doing, dream sequences or, the expressionism stuff anymore. But my man is still doing firsts. According to modern sources, he was the first filmmaker to pair newsreel footage as a courtroom device. Um,
Oh, really?
yeah. Um, so he's still, he's still doing new stuff. Um, Still very creative with his filmmaking. And again, setting trends, right? That's old news to
Right.
us, but back then they're like, wait, what was that? That was cool, you know?
Yeah, yeah, man. I was like, hey, that's weird. We're not getting a lot of, but there were things which we'll get to later, but I'll go ahead and tease now. The overlay of the 22 people's faces
Mm-hmm.
in the mirror, so cool.
Yeah, yeah, that was cool. You're
Um,
right. You're
which
right.
which we'll get, yeah, we'll get to later. Um, but man, I love that. So kind of moving on, I love that the remainder of the movie is the trial.
Yeah,
I didn't think so. Like when we see Joe back alive, which dope ass reveal.
yeah,
We hear his voice, and then Tommy and Charlie turn around and there he is. Dope reveal.
yeah.
I thought for sure that the trial was probably only going to last 15 minutes
Sure.
total of the movie. I thought the majority of the movie was going to be them gathering evidence,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. So I do like that the remainder of the movie is the trial.
Yeah.
Although the guy who plays the district attorney, and I was just kind of looking it up a second ago, I knew it wasn't Clark Gable, but I was like, he looks a lot like him though,
Yeah.
and it wasn't. It was his name is Walter Abel, I believe.
Hmm. That's close.
Walter Abel, yeah.
Yeah.
But I knew it wasn't Clark Gable, but in my head, because Ashley was on her computer while I was watching, so
Yeah.
she wasn't even paying attention. Uh, I was like, this Clark Gable son of a bitch over here,
Yeah.
like, because dude, the district attorney, man, he was on, like, he
Yeah.
was on his shit, bro.
Yeah, this movie takes the courtroom stuff very seriously, which is good, right? Of course it's
Hmm.
going to, of course it's supposed to, but for some reason in the back of my head, I'm like, I'm so used to courtroom dramas and in modern courtroom settings, right? And
Hmm.
I'm like, how much are they going to give me, right? And this court, and it was well more than I thought I was going to get.
Yeah,
Which
well,
I
and
like. I like courtroom stuff, so that was a fun surprise. I liked it a lot.
and it was a little strange for me because just a month ago I was on a jury myself,
Yeah.
a week long trial. So I was like, yeah, this, and it's kind of like just a little asterisk just for a second. It is interesting to see. Now I know the film doesn't show it exactly how it was, but it is interesting to see
Mhm.
how the legal system hasn't changed that much from the 30s to now.
Yeah.
I mean, certain jargon and certain how lawyers handle themselves has
Mhm.
changed. They're a little bit more, not necessarily professional, I would say. They're less aggressive,
Mhm.
I would say now. Um, but I was like, that's interesting that not a lot has changed in the
In the legal
almost
system,
80, yeah, the almost 80 years since this movie has come out.
I mean, that's either a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know. You know.
Uh, Whoever's listening can take it or leave
Sure.
it. But yeah, okay. So the trial.
Yeah.
Another thing that was really pissing me off, and again, it's going back to what you said, is we know that the mob is wrong,
Yeah.
even though they think they're right. It was pissing me off so much that even the sheriff, that everyone was like, oh, I can't identify anyone who was there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are y'all protecting these sons of bitches? Like, even though I know that Joe's alive, you don't know Joe's alive.
Yeah.
Like, you're just gonna be okay with letting them get away with murder,
Mhm.
essentially? And apparently, yeah, they
Yeah.
were.
Yeah. Um. So in the original story, the men were actually dragged through the streets and lynched. I know. Um. It's the original story took place in 1933, so it was 3 years prior to this film coming out. Happened in San Francisco. No, San Jose, California. Um, I found it interesting that they decided to change that to burning it down. Uh,
Yeah.
Probably because it would have been too
So
violent. Maybe. Um, that's probably
sure.
it. That it was way too violent um, to to string them up, I guess. But um,
So I was trying to find um where Strand is, the town.
mhm.
Um
Might be fake. Might not be a real place.
there is a place in Minnesota
Okay.
called Strand.
Hmm.
Guess it's near Fargo.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. Um Even though this didn't feel like it was in uh Minnesota.
No.
Um but yeah, that is interesting that they wouldn't want to change it to burning it down. I feel like burning it down would be more violent, but
Well, not necessarily because like there's there's a that visceral act of being dragged and then being hung in a tree. You know what I mean? Like that's
true.
like that's so violent and very personal and and it's just awful. You know.
Hmm.
I mean, you've seen Watchmen. You know the show. I mean,
Oh, yeah. I was
it's brutal, man.
As soon as you were saying that, bro, that's exactly what my
Yeah.
mind went to. Okay, everyone. Jeremy told you to watch the Nick. Also watch. Um. Oh my god, I blanked his name.
Damon Lindelof.
Yes. Watch his Watchmen show. Very sad that there will never be a season 2.
Yeah.
But
Don't need it. I have this one and it's fine.
well, and truth be told, we got our sequel in the form of the comics,
Sure.
The really dope Watchmen Doomsday Clock comics. Anyway, yeah, but that's interesting. So
yeah, I think maybe that's probably why they changed it. But I don't know. It would have been interesting the other way around. But harder to fake a death if you're there.
That's true. Yeah. Hard to fake being hung from a tree.
And it's an interesting concept. The entire movie is an interesting concept of surviving mob justice and immediately wanting revenge, right? Like his thought process was, I'm gonna stay dead, and we're gonna put them through, what they put me through, essentially.
Also, this movie could have been the inspiration for John Wick. Poor Rainbow doesn't make it out.
By the way, the same dog that played Toto.
I was just about to say, when that dog came on screen, I was like, that looks an awful lot like Toto.
His name is Terry, and he's a sweetheart, and he's been in. So he was in this movie, and then 3 years later, he becomes the most famous dog in all of Hollywood.
But yeah, poor Rainbow didn't make it out. So that should have been. I mean, that's probably a bit of Joe's motivation right there too. I mean,
definitely. Like
take away my dog.
It was fitting because he put his fiance on a train to be gone for a year, and immediately fills the void with a dog. Yeah. Sees poor Rainbow out on the street. He goes, "You're coming home with me. I'm lonely." Yeah.
And then, as we learned, Rainbow's actually a girl.
What are you gonna
do? Man, yeah, dude. I was like that's enough call for revenge right there.
The first piece of trivia, by the way, on IMDb is that's the same dog in The Wizard of Oz. But so funny. It blew my mind. I was like, "No fucking shit! Are you serious?"
And then you popped in The Wizard of Oz to be like, "Oh, that is the same dog."
No, recognize him immediately. As soon as they said it, I go, "They're right."
Well, like I said, I was like, that dog looks a lot like Toto.
Because it is. Isn't that crazy?
But, yeah. Okay. So, all right, back to the trial.
I do like how Joe is getting exactly what he wants. Okay? Mm-hmm. It's going perfectly. But as if to, this is obviously the point of the movie, but I love that, he is just, his character is declining, right?
Yeah.
He's becoming a worse person because, in a sense, he's become just as bad as the mob, right? Obviously, that's the point.
Yes.
But I love the manifestation of that. He's disheveled more. He's not shaving. He's drinking. He's mean to everyone who's helping him out. And worse, he's not looped in the person he should love the most, which is Catherine. Right?
Yeah. As he says to his brothers, she wouldn't understand.
Because he knows what he's doing is wrong in a sense, because he knows that Catherine would tell him immediately it's wrong.
Yeah. There's a small part of him that's like, like as you said, he knows it's wrong, but the part that has already become consumed with revenge is like, no, we're following through with this. Yeah. Even more to the point where he I don't know if it's exactly illegal, but he submits a anonymous evidence because it is starting to swing maybe all, as the defense is saying, this was not mob justice or anything like that.
Yeah.
Even though they were able to identify all of them, but it was starting to swing again back towards the defense's side. And so I guess I would call it Chekhov's ring.
Yeah.
The ring that Catherine gives him when she leaves comes back into play, that I would assume he burned to make it look like it didn't survive.
Yeah.
That he submits as an anonymous piece of evidence with cut up newspapers.
And dude, when the DA was describing what it is, like,
and
using and forming words by cutting up pieces of newspaper and forming, like, yeah, I know what the fuck it is. You know what I mean? It's like, is this the first time anyone's ever done that? Yeah.
I don't imagine someone on the jury's like, they did what?
How? You can do that? Silly, but fun. Silly, but informative.
Yeah, in case anyone needs to know how to form words with cutting up newspapers.
This movie inadvertently inspired so many kidnapping ransom notes. Like, that's how you do it, right there. Boom.
Like, boom, they'll never know. And then another movie is the one. I'm sure there's a movie out there that's the incorporated magazines. They're like, yeah, see, now we got to include magazines.
Magazines. All the letters can be from different advertisements. You've seen it. Yeah.
But then, that is what essentially sways everything back to the prosecutor.
Mm-hmm.
And
God knows what would have happened if Catherine had noticed one of the brothers wearing the raincoat, right? Because she had mended the raincoat right before she left. Joe's raincoat had a hole in it, had a tear in it, and she mended it, and the brother was wearing it, and there were still peanuts in the pocket. I think she noticed that he pulled out his hand and there were peanuts in it.
So she's already got a bit of a, like, that's strange.
Yeah.
Like, why would Tommy have Joe's coat?
Right.
And then the big thing was the fact that Joe can't say memento.
Mm-hmm.
He keeps saying momentum, and even the note had momentum. And then that's what tips her off, like, holy shit, Joe's alive.
Yeah.
And
a decent piece of foreshadowing. Like, that's like exposition.
Uh-huh.
It's like it's foreshadowing exposition that he can't. It seems dumb at the time, but again, at the beginning of the film, we're setting up so much and we're establishing their relationship and who Joe is as a person and all that. And this little one word that he can't say, that you think is just padding runtime or just a little quirk of his, becomes extremely important at the end, right?
Yeah, especially because it happens twice before all this goes down. Mm-hmm. He says it and she corrects him, and then in one of his letters to her, he initially spells it correctly, but then is like, and then he marks it out and writes momentum.
Yeah.
And then she even goes, memento, dear. So by this point, we've already kind of had it drilled into our heads. Joe doesn't know how to say memento.
Right.
And this is where we really see how the obsession of revenge has consumed him, when Catherine begs him, just end this, tell them you're alive. You are sentencing 22 people to death. Like, that's 22 too many. Yeah. And Joe's pretty much like, I don't care. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And I get his point. Like, I do. Like, I understand why he's so upset. Like, yeah, these people didn't have any evidence. They tried to kill me. I'm going to make them pay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I get why he's so upset with Catherine, but you know, it is, it kind of made me think a lot about 12 Angry Men a little bit.
Okay.
That he is so hell bent on condemning 22 people
Yeah.
over one. It's almost like an ends justify the means sort of mentality.
Definitely.
You know, um, but what I'm so thankful for, and in true Fritz Lang fashion, everything dials up to 11 in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also I should like to point out, because I even made Ashley take her headphones off and look at this. He gets so mad that he feels like Catherine and his brothers aren't on his side anymore that he decides to go out and celebrate. And I'm like, okay, first of all, you're in hiding.
Yeah.
And you go to a public restaurant and you don't even try to hide your face.
Yeah, I thought
Like,
about I thought the same thing. I was like, I must have missed something, because like, what is going on? And and it's like, what, you would never be able to go outside again
yeah,
if these gentlemen are indeed convicted and sentenced, whatever, like they might have even been sentenced to death. I don't remember, but um like, I think death penalty is on the table. And it's like, if they do, you'll never be able to get to go anywhere, because you'd have to move, I guess. Which, of course, I think, I guess it wouldn't be a problem because he doesn't live there, right? I'm just thinking about that.
yeah. Well,
Um,
no, but I mean, but even the newspapers that his brothers got back in their hometown, like, so people knew.
mhm. It's a good point.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, everything ramps up and
And you're right.
he's
We
getting,
do get that cool Fritz Lang shot. Um,
yeah, because he sees the shop window of the beds for the newlyweds, and then we get that cool double expose
mhm.
with all of the men's faces,
There you go.
and yeah. Um, but I like that we actually visibly see Joe's conscience really weighing him down.
Mhm.
That deep down he knows this is wrong. Like, yes, it was okay for me to want revenge, but this is taking it too far.
Right.
And I like that, again, in true Fritz Lang fashion, we see that it's visibly affecting him.
Yeah. And I think one of my favorite parts in this movie is that if he had followed through, he would have gotten exactly what he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were going through the sentencing as he walked into the courtroom, and a
Yep.
lot of them were guilty.
Yeah,
Um,
I think right before he walks in, they had only said, well, to that point, only two were found not guilty.
yeah,
As they were going down
and
the line, each one was guilty.
yeah, and it's like, what's better, right? Like, he would have gotten he would have gotten exactly what he wanted, but then he decided to turn himself in. It's, obviously he should have turned himself in. Like, that's the moral wondering,
Yeah.
um, but to him, it's a big deal because he was so close, you know.
Yeah.
And Fritz Lang, or I forgot who the writer was. I apologize. But it's, so sorry. Bartlett Cormac. Uh, Bartlett Cormac, and Fritz Lang, like, they decided to let the audience know that, you know we cut it close because they were guilty, or they were being found guilty, and these people's lives were almost just as ruined as Joe's was. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and if it weren't for his change of mind, his change of conscience, that yeah, they would have gone to jail forever or killed. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I will say though, I even though we were kind of talking about it off mic, I was a little disappointed in the ending,
Sure.
mainly just because like I didn't want an answer, but I did at least want to know what was going to happen to Joe.
Okay.
And as also we were talking about how they changed the ending
Yeah.
to have Catherine and Joe kiss in the courtroom.
It's not a huge listen, it's not a big change in terms of time, right? It
Uh-huh.
takes maybe 20 extra seconds, right?
Yeah.
Um but in terms of like how you feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's different because the original ending with Fritz Lang wanted it just to be on Sylvia Sidney's face, right?
Okay.
Um, and then we were gonna go to black, and then that's it, right? But
Right.
then MGM was like, no, they need to embrace, they need to kiss at the end. You know, that's just how our movies end. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
just how we need that reconciliation, right?
Yeah. Which I
But
mean is fine, like
sure,
cool that means that, that's but I really wanted to know like okay, like if they were like, all right, well Joe, since you are alive but let this drag on for so long, you're going to go to prison or
right? Yeah,
or something like that.
yeah, I see
Or
where you're coming from. I didn't read that was ever an option, right? It was
mhm,
the Joe turning himself in, but let's focus on Catherine and how this is affecting her, right? Because Catherine she's billed before, like Sylvia Sidney is billed um, before Spencer Tracy is. Like her name is
mhm,
first, right? So this is all sort of, you know, kind of through her lens in a way because we're seeing how this is affecting her, right?
mhm,
Because of course we're seeing her devastation of thinking that, her fiance is dead, right? Well,
right.
no. First, she's horrified that he's being charged for a crime he didn't commit,
Yeah.
right? Then it's, devastation of,
Oh
oh
my
my
god, he's
God,
dead.
he's dead.
Mhm.
Then it's even worse if you can believe it because he's pretending to be dead, getting revenge on these people and didn't tell her, right?
Yeah.
That's even worse, right? And she even says that it would have been better if he had died in that fire, right?
Mhm.
And then of course we're
Yeah.
getting the relief that he's doing the right thing finally, right? No matter
Right.
the consequences, that he is finally doing the right thing, and this is all through Catherine's character, not really through anyone else's. Um,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I just a part of me just wishes like, okay, like so what's going to happen to
yeah,
Joe
no,
now,
I understand.
Which I get, especially for a movie from 1936, most movies end on a happy note. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, they reconciled, the end, you know. That's the movie everyone. Have, glad you had a good time.
Yeah,
Um but I don't know, like a part of me was like, but
yeah,
like at least, you know, I would feel like he at least is probably going to go to jail for a little bit
sure.
because I mean, technically, he faked his own death. Well, yeah, he faked his own death. Um, but I don't know.
Well, he faked
I'm
his own
not
death
smart
and then
enough.
sent in that damning piece of evidence. Uh,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, which is uh, it's not technically perjury, but it's not.
well, it's manipulation of the court system.
Yeah,
Um,
so then I guess it
so
would be
I don't know what
perjury.
that would be called in terms of like the actual like charge, but it's got
Yeah.
to be illegal.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Um,
But yeah, I mean, so so as I said at the top of the show, this is my first time watching it too, and again with you, I really enjoyed it.
yeah,
It was shorter for a Fritz Lang movie.
definitely.
Was not expecting it. I mean, last week when you said it was only an hour and a half, I was like, really, an hour and a half for a Fritz Lang movie?
Yeah.
But I mean, he really packed us with a lot of info
Hmm.
that wasn't too overwhelming.
Yeah.
In that hour and a half, which again, from where we started with Destiny to now, that's definitely one of his things is he just throws a lot of info at us. And in my opinion, it's never overwhelming,
Yeah.
except for Dr. Maboose. Jesus Christ. That was so much at
Yeah.
once. So, it's just not overwhelming. And I just do, like I just said, I do wish we kind of had sort of an answer of what was going to happen to Joe, but the ending didn't take away from the experience for me. I
No,
still.
it's sort of like how I expect all movies that old to end,
Mhm.
because it is sort of abrupt, right?
Yeah.
Um, we're getting sort of I don't know, like I'd have to do a little more research or a lot more research to figure out why I feel that way. Because with movies like this, I almost want to turn to someone and go, "That's it, we're done."
That's
Okay, you know,
like we're out. Oh, okay.
um,
All right.
because they do tend to just end, right? There's no epilogue. There's no, you know, the the whole point is, you know, he was wrongly accused. He was sentenced to death by a mob. Um, he survived. He faked his death. They're getting charged with it. He's making sure that happens. He finds out that's the wrong thing to do, and then, turns himself in and reconciles. Right?
Right.
There doesn't need to be anything after that. The story has been told. That's done. Right?
Right.
So it might be just in terms of stories over by, right?
Right.
Which in its way is sort of interesting, because then it leads to what's going to happen next, right? It leads the audience to think like, what what should be done, what should happen. Do you think
Mhm.
what Joe did is reprehensible enough for him to be sentenced to jail himself, right?
Right.
I don't know. It's up to you. Or do you think that he should just be let off because it's like what they did to him, what he did to them, wipe clean. You guys are even, you know?
Imagine if that's the ending we got. Like, you know what? You both try to kill each other. We're good.
Like it's the
Everyone go home.
whitest kid you know. Like you go to jail, you don't. All right, get out of here. It's a great sketch with. Anyway, don't matter.
R.I.P. to Trevor.
R.I.P.
But again, yeah, I loved it. I think Ashley would really like it. When I told her it was from 1936, she was like, "It's from 1936." I was like, "Yeah, but at least it's in English."
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
At this point, we've been doing just German. At this point,
yeah.
And she was like, "Yeah, I guess." I feel like she would like this one.
Next one's not much newer than that. I don't think. I'll have to look, but
Next is Ministry of Fear. Yeah, 44.
44. See?
Yeah, so 8 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I really liked it. Of the Fritz Lang movies we've done so far, because we still have a full season left.
Yeah.
This is up there with M, man. Like, I was so excited to talk about M. I
Yeah.
really love M. But I this is definitely second.
Well, again,
so
it
far.
deals with that moral ambiguity where you're like, well, what's best, right? What's best to happen to Peter Lorre? What should happen to Spencer Tracy? Like, we don't, you know what I mean? Like, there's not one just good answer, right? And I think that's what Fritz Lang does best with these moral noirs.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay. We did great.
But we did it. But I was going to say, but next week, we're not really going to have a moral compass. We're going to know who's right and who's wrong.
So can I tell you something?
Yes.
That blew my mind today.
Absolutely.
I won't show it because I'm just bragging at this point that we just have these movies. I don't want to even show it. Who cares? I just watched The Dead Zone before we did this, which I loved, by the way. I'd never seen it before. David Cronenberg directed it, and Christopher Walken's in it. And in the beginning of the movie, he's a school teacher, right? Stephen King likes to put school teachers in his stuff because he was a teacher before he was a writer full time.
Uh-huh.
He also likes to put writers in his stuff. So a lot of his main characters are writers or teachers. Um, but they were going over Edgar Allan Poe. They were talking about the Raven, and again, this is Christopher Walken. He goes, "All right, guys, that's the end of today. Your homework is to read Ichabod Crane's Sleepy Hollow. You'll like it. A school teacher gets chased by a headless demon." And I was like, "What are the odds of that?" That Christopher Walken is talking about Sleepy Hollow. Anyway,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Especially because yeah, so everyone, my next pick is 1999 Sleepy Hollow. Johnny Depp is back in the lead role with Tim Burton. But a little bit interestingly, this version of Ichabod Crane is almost a first of his kind forensic investigator,
Yeah,
rather than a school teacher.
yeah.
Which I actually, if I'm being honest, never knew Ichabod Crane was supposed to be a school teacher.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yes. Ichabod Crane is a school teacher, and
This is one of the few Tim Burton movies I haven't seen as much as I have some of the other ones on the list. Say for my final Tim Burton pick,
mhm.
I've seen this at least 3 times. But compared to like Batman and Edward Scissorhands, I've seen those 4, 5, 6 times.
Yeah.
I don't have anything against this movie. I think it's just because it is one of the more, in my opinion, maybe you might disagree with me, one of the more dense Tim Burton movies. There's a lot of twists and turns and cat and
Yeah.
mouse and
So
but I don't hate it.
I remember really liking it. I've only seen it a handful of times as well. I remember being very confused by how old Christina Ricci's supposed to be.
Yes. Because I if I remember correctly, I think she's coming off of Casper by this point in her career.
But
Hang
then,
on, everyone.
it has really been a long time because now I'm trying to remember like how old I was the last time I've seen it. Then I was like, wait, is there supposed to be like this sort of like um romance, this sort of romance between Ichabod and her character that I don't remember her name? Because if so, am I supposed to be weirded out by that? Because Christina Ricci looks like she's 13,
Yeah.
and she might not be. I don't know, but they're not really telling me she isn't. So it should be Jeffrey Jones in this role, or this, which
He's in the movie
yeah,
too.
no, I know he's in the movie. I know.
Okay, no, I was wrong. Casper was 95. Truth be told, the movie that I recognize that she's coming off of a year prior was Fear and Loathing.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know.
So
Hang on, she
it's
was born
funny
in.
that you mentioned that this came out
So
in
she was at least 19, 18 by the time she did this movie.
I mean, that's fine. Still weird. But okay, so you mentioned this movie came out in 99.
Yes.
I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast before. There is a book called Best Movie Year Ever. Okay?
Uh-huh.
All of those have periods at the end. I'm not just doing that for effect. So it talks about the movies that came out in 1999. You're not going to believe the list. It's insane. Okay? The list
Are they the best movies?
Well, again, they're not the best movies ever. This is just the best year of movies.
Oh,
okay. We're talking this is just me looking at the cover. Okay. And I have it somewhere. I think it's over on our bookshelf. Okay. So we're talking The Sixth Sense, The Iron Giant.
Oh shit, that's right.
Hold on. Fight Club. Being John Malkovich. The Matrix. Run Lola Run. Office Space.
Oh fuck, that's right.
Did I say the Blair Witch Project? Election
Uh-huh.
and like Cruel Intentions. Like, I mean, a lot of movies, well-known movies. They're not necessarily the best movies, but they're well-known. They're important to the lexicon.
Is it because 99, was during Y2K?
I don't know. I don't know, but it's
what's funny.
The Green Mile also came out in 99.
It's funny because we were talking about The Matrix off.
I know. But isn't that insane? Like, what a coincidence, right? That all these movies came out in the same year. Could you imagine? Like, we were alive, but we didn't go to the movies really that often.
I know, dude. Well, and this movie was, if I remember correctly, hang on, I'm grabbing my copy. Sure. Yeah, it's rated R, so, you and I were only 6 years old when this movie came out.
Yeah, I was still terrified of the movie theater when I was 6. So I remember my parents went to go see. That's when. That's before you ruined their marriage. My parents went.
In case anyone forgot,
my parents went to go see Star Wars: The Phantom Menace when it came out. I remember the day they went because I got a babysitter.
Yeah, I don't think I saw that in theaters. I saw the other 2 in theaters, but I don't think I saw.
So did I. I also saw the other 2 in theaters, but not this one.
Anyway,
it doesn't matter.
So Sleepy Hollow next week. Really excited to talk about it because then that's only one more for me till we get to the one you're really excited about.
Yes.
Which I rewatched recently, and it's just as great.
What are you rewatching these so early for?
I don't know. I was telling Ashley how excited you were, and I was like, I want to watch it. Mainly because I hadn't seen the 4K version.
It's as good as I'm sure I remember.
Yeah.
So yeah, Sleepy Hollow, very excited. I remember liking it. Haley is not going to watch this one with me. She's too scared.
Just put it on and see what she does.
She'll be so mad.
Dude, no, I feel like she'll be more scared of Sweeney Todd when we get to that one.
Maybe. She'll roll her eyes more that it's a musical than at anything else. I know. I told her it was a musical.
Stephen Sondheim. Stephen Sondheim, though, man.
She just hates musicals. I don't disagree. I don't really like musicals either. It depends, right? We've talked about it before. I love Chicago.
Yeah, I know. And you loathe Les Mis.
Did not. No, of course not. That's sing talking. I don't do that shit. Didn't really like Phantom of the Opera that much.
I forgot I made you do that.
Yeah, it's like, hey, Andrew Lloyd Webber, I know what a masquerade ball is. You don't have to sing-splain it to me. I got it.
Instead of mansplaining,
it's sing-splain. Yeah, he's sing-splaining it to me.
Anyway. All right, before we make this outro any longer, everyone, we hope you enjoyed Fury, and we will see you next week for Sleepy Hollow.